What's going on? I'm going to talk a little Maction action for tonight. Obviously, on a day like this, it's called Screwball Tuesday for a reason, and screwball things happen. So I think that you really got to be aware of some stuff tonight, and the games that I'm really focused mostly on is obviously on the MAC conference. So with the two games that start very soon in Buffalo and Akron, that's the game that definitely has me really second guessing myself, because when you think about how Buffalo plays at home, the pace and tempo that they want to get off to, the type of scoring output that they want to be involved in, it just makes it very difficult. I think that when you look at Buffalo from a personnel perspective, there are some very interesting pieces that you can use in this endeavor. On the other side with Akron, this is just a group that continues to play in a very winnable system, aided by a go-to game-changing scorer in Xavier Castaneda, and with a beast like Enrique Freeman down on the low block. He's causing havoc on the offensive and defensive glass. He's doing a good job passing out of double teams in tight spaces. He's limiting his turnovers. He's making very good use of the possessions that he's involved in. So when you have a guy that at 6'7" that plays 6'10" or 6'11", it's a lot to handle for a Buffalo team that definitely has some, I would call, inexperienced front court help at this juncture in the season in my fellow Canadian Isaac Jack and John Via Smith. With Johnny Smith and Isaac Jack, these are two guys that are going to do a good job of extending possessions, doing a good job of creating those freaking ISOs for your guards to get to the rim. And if they miss those layups, they're right there to grab that offensive rebound. I think with Isaac Jack at 6'11", his size and him staying out of foul trouble is going to be critical tonight. You know what Zed Powell and Curtis Jones and company are going to do. They're going to penetrate the paint. They're going to try and run off misses, and they're going to have some good ball security when it comes to him, and when it comes to those two and Armani Foster. The wild card offensively for Buffalo is going to be Isaiah Adams. The UCF transfer just has not shot the ball well enough, but at 6'6" and his length and his size, he can really give some of Akron's guards trouble, because their three best guards that they're going to run out there are all 6'1" or 6'2". So you can back a guy down. You can really slow it down and be able to score when you're back to the basket if you're one of the Buffalo guards. Now, my thing with this first half total is simply, is Akron going to allow Buffalo to run that pace and tempo that they want? Or is this a game where you see for at least 20 minutes, Akron really be able to slow Buffalo, frustrate them, and then get into a little bit of more higher scoring game in the second half? That's personally what I think is going to happen. So I'm holding off on the first half over in this game. And at the end of the day, the resume is very clear. If you can get 2.5 points or more with Buffalo, it's a good number to me. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a good game. I'm on Buffalo, and I'm undecided right now on what I'm doing on the first half total. I think that the first half under makes sense if you think that Akron's able to control and win this first half. And on the other side, if you're backing Buffalo, you have to back Buffalo in a higher scoring game, especially when we're only talking about a 3.5 point per minute pace. All right. Let's move on. Bowling Green and Ball State. Yeah, it's a real suspicious line, I would call it. I think that with Bowling Green, what we've seen so far this season is a team that's really run determined by the successes of your three-point shooting. When you look at Leon Ayers, when you look at Samari Curtis, Caden Matheny, these are your three big three-point shooters. And then you have guys like Chandler Turner and freaking what the hell's his name? Isaac Lasser. Those guys can also contribute when it comes to the 3-point line, but you got to be able to hit your threes, hit your open threes, and then you got to be able to get to the free throw line, which we've seen Curtis and Ayers do a really good job of. The problem's going to be on the defensive end and on the glass. I think that when you look at some of the front court pieces for this team, getting Sam Towns back is obviously a big deal, but he's not really playing what I would say critical second half minutes. And he is a guy that you can really lock down on 2 levels. And if he wants to shoot a bunch of threes, let him. Otherwise, you're pretty reliant on a guy like Gabe O'Neal coming off the deep bench or Ray Shawnagee, who's going to play your starter minutes. There's just not enough front court help. And when you have to cover a guy like Peyton Sparks, who I think is one of the higher end scoring big men in the conference, I just don't think that it's going to work out well for you. So you have to have that backcourt scoring leading the way if you're going to be able to challenge in this game. And by the line and what it's posted at, it definitely is giving you that impression right now. I don't have a bet on this game right now. I am looking towards betting Ball State, one of those rare road favorites that I'm actually endorsing confidently. I just think at the end of the day, Ball State has the more consistent offensive weapons. I think that when I look at my line, I have them as a 5-point favorite, not a 2-point favorite. When you look at their ball handling from Demarius Jacobs, that's what you're going to have to freaking really rely on. He's got to be able to facilitate this offense. He's got to be able to really have that good court vision. And from a defensive standpoint, you got to be aggressive at the rim. You got to take away some of Ball State's rim action, and you got to you got to take away Bowling Green's rim action, and then you got to really attack Bowling Green at the rim because that's where they're most vulnerable defensively. I think that when you look at Ball State, this is a team that definitely does do a good job of taking care of the basketball and looking and being patient enough to get that right shot, which makes it difficult at times to back them in overs because they can get very methodical. They can be very clock conscious, and that's where some of their starts look like they're going to be flying over 160, and then the game hits 148. This is a 3-point shooting team that is going to be led by Jerron Coleman with 48 makes already on the year. He's shooting 38%. He's playing heavy minutes, 30 plus. And with his mid-range game, he's going to go to the free throw line a ton, and he's a guy that you can depend on for 80%. The problem is how many points Peyton Sparks is going to leave at the free throw line. That's the one blemish on his game. He's great on both sides of the glass. He's good court vision, can pass out of a double team, takes care of the basketball without doing those 2 or 3 dribble freaking possessions. He one dribbles it, either shoots it or freaking gives it up. He gets to the free throw line so much, you would think that he would be better. He's shooting 48%. He's been there almost 140 times. If Ball State loses this game tonight, you can very easily make a case that his free throw shooting probably led to it, because you go through the box scores, you see how many points on a game-to-game basis Sparks is leaving there, and in some games, it's actually come back to haunt them. So, obviously against Western Michigan, they were able to skate away without it. But in the game against Ohio, they were not so lucky. This team has played very well against lower tier MAC opponents. That's where I put Bowling Green. The only advantage Bowling Green really has, in my eyes, is the fact that they're at home. So I think that coming off a nice, comfortable, easy win against Northern Illinois helps Ball State out tonight, and I'm going to be looking to get on them. So I'm not on them yet. I've been sort of waiting till about half an hour before the game to lock it in, just to see if the public moves the number. But right now, Ball State is on my list of things to do. So, all right. Let's see. All right. Well, I think that going into our next game is definitely a conundrum for me because I already have a first half over in this Toledo Miami Ohio game, and that's plain and simply because what does Toledo do? Toledo is a much better scoring team on the road than they are at home, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that when you look at Toledo, this is a group that when you look at Cedric Milner and J2 Shoemates, different skill sets and their ability to run the floor, it really makes you think, how does anybody ever beat this Toledo team? Now that Toledo has Tyler Cochran back in the lineup, I think that they're going to be a lot more assertive, a lot more physical on the perimeter guarding. And I think that they're going to be better off in general just because they're having somebody with the confidence to either go out and make a shot and not have a guy that needs someone to be put in a position to score a shot. I don't know if that makes sense, but when you watch Tyler Cochran over his MAC career, he's been a cold-blooded scorer whenever he's been given the green light to do so. He naturally takes good shots and looks for good shots. And if Dante Maddox doesn't play tonight, I don't think that you're losing that much. I think that you're gaining that much more. Now, where's Toledo done the most of their scoring when it comes to their games? On the road in situations like this. I think that Toledo can really run rampant on this Miami, Ohio team if they choose to. And with Miami, Ohio being healthy, having Kamar Williams, having Julian Lewis, having Morgan Stafford and Makai Larry all in the lineup producing at the same time is the best equation for them to help get this game into the high 70s by the end of the first 20 minutes. I'm not shy about backing Toledo on the road. I think that the better way to attack it is to hit them in the first half. So that's what I'm doing with them today. I probably will be looking towards hitting that full game over just because the lines move so much. Open up at 165.5 down to 158. And that just screams public move, whatever you want to call it. At the end of the day, it makes sense to be looking at the over considering the line move. Because if the line was that off, are we really thinking that line move from 165.5 to 158 is the right move with no injuries to key players? And if you think Dante Maddox is a key player, I just disagree on that. If it was Shoemate, Milner, Ray J. Dennis, then I'd be a little more suspicious. But don't forget, Toledo can play big if they want. They can go with a natural freaking 5 lineup, but you see them go with this versatile, I can guard 1 through 4 type deal. I think that the best way to approach this game, especially if the first half over doesn't hit, is to hit that over for the second half. I'm expecting points in this game. I will not be surprised to see it end up in the 170s. All right. Next MAC game is Western Michigan, Northern Illinois. Obviously, with Western Michigan, this is a team that I've been very impressed with from a developmental standpoint, not from a win-loss or cashing ticket standpoint. After watching them cough up that lead against Central Michigan last time out, it does give me a lot of pause before jumping in bed with them. But at the end of the day, at home, in a comfortable surrounding, in a familiar sight line, Marquise Hastings and Lamar Norman can carry a team pretty far. Offensively, obviously, Marquise Hastings done a lot of work with his back to the basket, close to the rim. And I think that when you look at his three-point shooting, it's something that definitely can be handy if he gets going early in one game. I think that at the end of the day, if you can defensively stop Lamar Norman from lighting you up, then you have a shot. If not, I think Western Michigan rolls tonight. I don't have a play on this game as of yet. It's a spot that I'm hoping to see a 5 or excuse me, I'm hoping to see a 5 on Western Michigan to give me that confidence to freaking get on them. I think that they can win this game by 6 points or more. I'm not going to get on the additional total, but right now I'm just sussing out the line waiting, like I said I have been. And I'm just looking at Western Michigan. I think that outside of Northern Illinois' couple freaking rare victories, they don't provide a lot of value unless they're a 10 plus point underdog. I think that coming off some nice wins against Miami, Ohio, against Eastern Michigan, against Kent State, you can really fall into a freaking recency bias. And that's what I think is going on here. There's a reason why this line opened up at 2 and has moved up. And I think that there's a definite reason supporting not thinking that David Colt is going to have his way. I think that when you look at what this Western Michigan team defensively has to do is keep David Colt off the free throw line. Keep freaking Keshawn Williams off the freaking outside of the paint and keep him off the free throw line as well. Outside of that, I'm not really worried about a guy like Anthony Crump. I'm not worried about Zarik Nutter. Like, these guys do not pose a lot of fear to me when it comes to backing a conference foe when they are on the road. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to wait about another 25 minutes before I get on Western Michigan. I see a 4 and a 4.5 right now. I'd love to see that 5 because I know that then someone else is going to be freaking moving that 4 to 4.5, and that's when you hit the favorite here at home. All right. Aside from that, it's pretty much it when it comes to the Western Michigan game. I think that when you look at their first half numbers, that's where I'm a little more hesitant to jump on them. I think that I would actually lean towards Northern Illinois if you can get 2.5 or 3, but that would mean that the line would have to move to 5. Eastern Michigan and Ohio is just a game that I'm going to just plug my nose and back Ohio. I think that when you look at Eastern Michigan's defensive rating, it's just so poor. They're just so bad at everything defensively. They don't keep you off the free throw line. They don't stop your interior scoring. They don't close out on 3-point shooters and literally give up sometimes. Even if they get a really good game from Amani Bates, do you really have a lot of confidence that this Eastern Michigan team can pull it off? I think that when you look at Noah Farrakhan, he's been a disappointment to me. I think that when he wants to go inside, get within that 10-foot range and hit that little jumper, he's great. But when he's lazy and he doesn't have the energy to take it to the rim, he's a liability offensively. I think that the one thing you got to do against Eastern Michigan is keep them out of the bonus, because when they get into the bonus, there really aren't a bunch of guys that are going to give you freaking 1 out of 2s or missing front ends of 1-and-1s. That's just not how Eastern Michigan plays. Eastern Michigan is going to thrive off running, off misses, doing a good job against a weak offensive rebounding team, and being able to freaking get Amani Bates to go off and distract the defense to make it easier for other guys to get a shot. I don't think that you're going to see that in this Ohio game. My one concern for Ohio is just how do they cover Bates on the 3-point line? They won't have a problem dealing with him inside. They do have some beefcakes that can freaking muscle this guy out and push him out. But when he decides to freaking spot up 3, handle the ball after a make or miss, it's just a dangerous player to freaking allow to do what he wants. So coming off a game where they definitely challenged and could have freaking made the full comeback if they played a full 40 minutes instead of only 20, I just think that we get a better version of Ohio tonight. And with Ohio, at 7.5 at -109, it's not a bad number to me. I usually don't want to back these types of spreads, but even with Amani Bates having a great night in my prize pick lineup is not going to determine whether or not they cover on the spread or not. I think that this team lacks true killer instinct. I think that their defense is the downfall of them. And with Ohio being so experienced and having so many different guys that can really make an impact on a game to game basis, there is no defensive game plan that you make aside from how you deal with Dwight Wilson. And every time you bring a double team, you leave a guy like Miles Brown, you leave a guy like Jalen Hunter, like AJ Brown, like AJ Clayton, like Ben Roderick. All these guys are good, above average Division One 3-point shooters. And if you leave them open, they are going to hit. If you don't double team Dwight Wilson, he's going to score he's going to add on to his 122 inside the arc field goal makes. So I think that this is just a bad stylistic matchup for Eastern Michigan. I don't think it's going to be easy for them to score unless they're taking 5 to 10 seconds of the shot clock to get a shot. And I think that when you want to freaking try and isolate or take away an offensive weapon, it just leaves you that much more vulnerable on the perimeter when you're Eastern Michigan's defense. So I like Ohio here. I'm watching this line right now, and 109 is the best number that I'm going to probably get. I don't think it's going to go down to 7. So from a ATS standpoint, just Eastern Michigan has not made you money at these spreads as an underdog. All right, let's have a look at the last game. Probably the least interesting game, the dub game, if you're talking Eric Haslam metrics. I just think that this Central Michigan team has some issues. I think that it's very clear that their offensive rebounding, or they're giving up offensive rebounds, is their detriment. When you can guard for 25 seconds and then give up an offensive rebound, which is what you see happen quite often in Central Michigan games, you just feel bad for them. They love to miss open threes. They can't fucking take care of the basketball in the half court. I think that beating Western Michigan was not them beating Western Michigan. It's Western Michigan beating themselves. And I just don't think that they're going to get off that lucky tonight. I think that by winning that game, you actually make yourself more of a target to Kent State than you would have been otherwise. Is Jesse Zarzuela going to go off for 25 points tonight? I would bet not. And you can guarantee that if he had a point prop out there, he would not be in the high teens to low 20s whatsoever. I think that was a anomaly type game, and I think Central Michigan comes back to earth. The easiest way for me to approach this game was to approach this game from a first half over perspective. I thought that when you saw the number 64, it just made a lot of sense to me. Kent State is definitely a lot more ball savvy and confident at home, and Central Michigan still doesn't have Kevin Miller. So without Boogie Miller, this team just loses a lot of its flair to me. Now, they've had to go young, obviously, with guys like Reggie Bass, Max Marley playing some pretty significant minutes. But Dan Marley's kid has not been great from the three-point line. He's under 30%. Same thing with Reggie Bass, and both these guys are putting up a lot of shots. Now, albeit they have some good size, they have some good prospects for development in the future, but tonight just doesn't really seem like it's a great situational spot for me. I think that when you look at backing Kent State tonight, seeing an 18.5 point spread is not your favorite because we know that Kent State can take their foot off the pedal. But I think that defensively, this is where they're going to have a lot of advantage. I think that when we talk about Central Michigan taking care of the basketball, when we talk about the second chance opportunities Kent State's going to get, when we talk about the amount of free throw trips that Kent State's going to make, especially when we talk about if the game's a little close at points. I think that when you look at Kent State's inside the arc defense, that's going to take away a lot of dribble drive action for Central Michigan, a lot of their ball screen offense, and Central Michigan is not a prolific three-point shooting team. They're one of the worst in the nation. So I understand why the number is like it is. That's why I think that there's more value back in Kent State early on a first half spread rather than full game. Now, I've been completely wrong on some of these. I have not bet that situation yet. The only thing that I'm on is the first half over. I just think that at the end of the day, Central Michigan's defense is going to open her legs like a stripper in the fucking private dance room. And I think that when you look at Kent State, they're going to have all these different kinds of offensive scoring options. Jalen Sullinger with his scoring ability to get to the rim. Malik Jacobs with his pull-up and wing threes. Von Cameron Davis being able to come off the bench and just give you a lot of physical dribble drive to the rim, and then obviously a guy like Sincere Carey, who's going to back a guy down, who's going to freaking run in transition, who's going to freaking use ball screens to get to the rim. Like, there's just so many options for Kent State to score, and the way that they score is going to work well against Central Michigan. So if this game is 42-26 at halftime, I'm not going to be surprised. So I like Kent State first half over in this game. It just makes sense to me. So Screwball Tuesdays, a lot of screwball things happen. We got Mississippi State and South Carolina starting up soon. Listen, I was on the first half under in this game. I'm definitely cringing about it. I'm definitely having these types of hallucinogen premonitions that Mississippi State is going to fucking mop the floor of South Carolina early. They're going to go over freaking first half and then go under full game. Sort of like Florida A&M last night. Went over in the first half, went under full game. I am very high on St. Joe's right now. I think that getting Reynolds back is fucking huge. I think that when you look at Lynn Greer and you look at Christian Winborn, their ability to, first off, pick up the scoring slack when other guys are not doing their part is a big thing. And I just think St. Joe's is really one of those teams that no one's giving credit to, but plays within a conference like the A10 that is very beatable. So I don't know what the line is on that game, but if it's 4.5 or better, I'm looking at St. Joe's. So yeah, they're a 4.5 point favorite. So I'd definitely be looking at St. Joe's there. I think that Rhode Island definitely has to show that Ishmael Leggett can get the offense going and that they can score early on. But St. Joe's has been a very good first half team, very good first half total team for me at least. So I'll be looking at St. Joe's tomorrow. Are there any other games I actually wanted to talk about? So St. Louis and Fordham in the A10. Hate to stay in the A10. It's not my favorite conference to bet. That's a real interesting defensive assignment for St. Louis's perimeter players because there's going to be a lot of dribble drive action from Fordham. A lot of their freaking offense is just screens, pick and roll, a lot of freaking drive and kick. That's how they get the 3-point shots. I'm just not confident in St. Louis's defense, but I'm sort of at war with Fordham right now. I hate Antrell Charlton. I don't like his dad. I don't like anybody that fucking likes him. So I'm just trying to stay away from the game because I'm very biased on it. Clemson and Boston College is an interesting game to me just because Boston College getting this new version of Quentin Post is a game changer for me. Obviously his matchup against PJ Hall is going to be serious. That's going to be a big man matchup. And DeMar Langford is going to play for Boston College. We don't know the status of Brevin Galloway. We don't know the status of Chase Hunter, if he's fully acclimated and back to fucking his normal self. Alex Hemaway has a foot issue. There's just so many issues with Clemson, and then the line went up in their favor. I'm not in love with Boston College. I'm not telling you to put your mortgage or sell one of your children to bet on this game, but I gotta be looking at Boston College, even if I eat crow. So yeah, a lot of my betting is going to be done in the next 20 minutes. Maris and Quinnipiac. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'll say it. I think that the safest way to back UConn, I looked at some of the props. I looked at Sonogo. Sonogo just hasn't really been completely dominant on the road. It's been really matchup based. I think that the easiest thing for me to get on, which I got on this afternoon on DraftKings, was Jordan Hawkins over 2.5 threes. I think that's just he's playing his best basketball of his UConn career. He's really taking it upon himself to pick up a stagnant offense or an offense that isn't making shots. And I think that with how much he's relied on his dribble drive, his back cutting the baseline, and his ability to get to the free throw line, it's just going to open up his three-point shooting. And against DePaul's defense, I do think that that's going to work out in his benefit tonight. On the DePaul side, I'll be the first one to congratulate Umaja Gibson on moving from a really good Oklahoma team to a really bad DePaul team, but putting up some very good numbers while playing there. I think that he's been a guy that I've been hitting on the 2.5 threes prop and been hitting. Tonight it's -1, it's over 1.5 at -150, and I bit the fucking apple. So hopefully I don't turn into a fucking bigger troll than I already am. I think that with this UConn team, the safest way to back them is first half and then evaluate at halftime. That's what I'm doing. And with UConn on the road, their offense has been fucking terrible. I don't think that it's a spot where I think that they get that 3.5 point per minute pace. So we'll see what happens there. I'll probably lose hair and minutes off my life. One of the games I really like is Boise State and Air Force. I'm one of these guys that just really like what Air Force is doing. I do think that this is the end of the road when it comes to the opponents that you want to play at this time in the season in Boise State. I think with Boise, Max Rice has been a lot more assertive, a lot more dominant on the ball than we've seen in his whole career. And I think that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm hoping that it's a bad thing tonight and that he misses a bunch of threes. I think that when you look at Air Force and how they can score the basketball from the three-point line and how they can use that three-point shot to open up the paint for drivers is the key for Air Force tonight. If they can play with Boise early, if they can go into the half not down more than 2 3-point buckets, I think they have the opportunity to pull out the outright upset. The best time to back Air Force is at home. Best time to back Air Force is also in the first half. When you see some of these first half team totals, when they're under 30 points with Air Force, it's almost like, I don't know, catnip. I just can't avoid it. I got to get it. So I have a little bit of a love affair with Air Force right now just because I think that they've improved. When we're talking about Heidbreder, we're talking about Ethan Taylor, talking about Jeffrey Mills, we're talking about the emergence of Corbin Green. Don't know if he's playing tonight. Got to find that out. I'm just into this Air Force team. So they'll probably break my heart tonight, but I'm rolling with them first half over, full game over, and Air Force on the spread. So fade away. Loyola Chicago and Dayton. Now, I don't understand why the line's moving like that. I don't understand why the line was posted at 17. I have this line at 10. So from a value standpoint, 2.5 points of value, my own rule would dictate that I take Loyola Chicago plus 14.5 at -109, but I'm not going to do it as of yet because like I posted earlier today, Loyola Chicago is only good when they are balanced, scoring time, playing time, shot selection, sharing the basketball. But if the coaching staff's going to lose their nerve, they're going to really torpedo what this team is able to do best. Now, when we talk about size, we know that Dayton is a big team and Dayton's guards are a big team. Dayton's freshman point guard is like 6'7", 6'8". What Loyola Chicago is going to run out there is definitely a lot smaller of a backcourt. And I think that in a slowed down game, they're at a disadvantage. So instantly, the thing that I look at right away is Loyola Chicago has to go up tempo early. They got to be able to negate some of that size that Dayton has. So what stands out to me is obviously the first half over, especially at a 3-point per minute pace. So I'm looking at Loyola Chicago Dayton first half over. My numbers say Loyola Chicago. I'm not there yet. And frankly, I'm just not really in the mood or mindset to back this Dayton team when they're a double-digit favorite. All right. So this is the last game I'll talk about, Indiana, Maryland. It's not really because of a spread perspective. I think that what interests me most about this game are two key players, one for each team. I'm very enamored with Trace Jackson Davis. His game is very interesting to me. I love watching how he establishes that freaking position on the low block. And then his guys know, get this guy the ball. When the offense is stagnant, feed Trace. When it's the second half and it's early, feed Trace. So when TJD is getting the ball early on and then early in the second half, that's when he really is at his best. I think coming off a game where he did not hit his prop, I think that you come back to it because now it's a point lower. I think he scores 20 points or more in this game, and that's the point prop that I'm on. On the other side, if you don't know about Jahmir Young and you haven't been watching Maryland basketball home games, go back, watch a couple clips. This is the guy that really has all the shake and bake on that Maryland roster. There is nobody that is more assertive, cold-blooded, quicker on the dribble than Jahmir Young. I like Jahmir Young to put up 20 points in this game. Where does Maryland score the basketball? At home. Where do they not score the basketball? On the road, with the exception of the Iowa game. I think that we see the good version of Maryland tonight. I think Maryland first half -1.5 is a good number that I'll be looking to get on depending on how the night goes. And I'm on Jahmir Young's point prop over. So hopefully it's not a bloodbath. Hopefully it's not Screwball Tuesday in a bad way. And I'm not going to be getting on every underdog like I did last week because that did not work out well for me. So that's about it for me. We got a game starting off in 3 minutes. Hope you guys have a great night and fuck with your eyes open.